Welcome to Game Night, and what we have here is a round table. Like, we literally got a table this is a round table discussion. Where can you get that? Round table discussion. And we want to do more of these. This is one of the purposes of Game Nights. It's more casual, more relaxed, but more collaborative and everything. And we want to talk about Invincible. The whole series. I know I did a pre-review on Game Nights, just in the first 3 or 4 episodes. And now, of course, we've watched the whole thing. It would have come a lot sooner, but I had a surgery. What can you do? But that gave time for Nathan to watch it. He's finished it. I watched it all with Oz. And, so clearly, I loved it. Oz and Nathan, what are your thoughts?
I'm kidding.
Just look at me. Come here.
No, you're gonna slap me.
I literally am gonna slap
It was great. Probably the best superhero cartoon I've seen that wasn't Superman Red Sun.
Probably the best superhero anything. It's up there.
It's
one
better
of
than
the
boys.
best.
Oh, the boys. But yeah, much better than.
One of the best. I wouldn't say it is the best, but one of the best. And one of the reasons why you can't say it is the best is because it's so different. And so it depends what you're after. But in terms of, if you were to say, okay, reclassify all the superhero things into all the violent, like gritty, realistic ones, I would go far to say it is the best gritty, realistic superhero piece of media.
Wait, grit? Okay, so better than Man of Steel versus Batman? Even better than that?
That's not a high bar.
It's like.
I think I've done a couple of turds that looked and smelled better than that. But anyway, sorry, Nathan, what are your thoughts and impressions?
I enjoyed it. I have some thoughts on it because as much as I enjoyed it, and I think this is the thing why you like it, Shad, there were parts where I had to stop and contain myself because of how violent it was. Like, I've played a lot of violent games and movies. My parents don't know this, but I've seen a lot of stuff.
Confessions.
But there were times in the show where stuff would happen. I'd have to pause and walk out the room and just kind of... Because I felt so bad for what was happening.
Last episode. What was your reaction? Now, no spoilers, so don't be specific, but I just want... What was your reaction to the scene?
Yeah, I think what got me more was a previous fight scene.
Really?
Yeah.
Even that.
Can we just shut? It's been out for ages. Can we just do spoilers?
No, we first part, our no spoilers, then we'll get into spoilers. That's how we'll be doing it, okay?
Still got me. It was still very hard hitting, but for me, maybe I was out of the moment while watching it, but yeah.
We'll talk about which one, because I didn't even know what he's referring to now, the one that hit him more than the train scene. And that's not giving anything away. There's a scene with a train. That's...
Because that wasn't in the graphic novel, was it?
No.
That's what got me when watching that, actually. I was like, this wasn't in...
I have the graphic novel, and you borrowed.
Yeah.
Nathan borrowed and read the graphic novel. And this is the thing. This is the crazy... One of the things that I like... So often, no adaptation even comes close to meeting the caliber of the source material. This, in some places, surpassed it.
I think, for most of it.
Now, when I say that, it does some things worse. I'm not going to say it does everything better. There are some things that are legitimately far worse. Amber. We'll talk about her.
Really? You thought Amber was bad?
She was awful.
Some people preferred Amber. Some people sitting behind you preferred Amber.
Sitting behind?
Yeah, you said you preferred Amber. She's more of a character. You can't take it back. I remember these things.
Alright, okay, okay. Yeah, kind of.
We have a discussion. We've got a discussion coming.
Is going backwards, apparently. He's backtracking.
I didn't like his best friend, though, in the...
Yeah, the best friend was annoying.
Yeah, he was not...
He only started to do something mildly useful at the end of the series, I reckon, where he started to be a somewhat appropriate foil for things to bounce off of in regards to the main character. But even then, it wasn't done well. But finally, it's like, oh, you could do something with this character. But no, I didn't like him. Didn't like Amber. But the thing that they did better was the reveal. There's an important reveal. They paced it better. They changed the time when an important reveal happens to be later on. And so they actually changed some of the timelines. There are certain conflicts that happen in the graphic novel that happens after the reveal. And they instead stretched out the reveal to be further and put other conflicts before, which I reckon made it better. Like, it made it more suspenseful. They didn't go too far. And when the reveal happens, oh, good. I have a couple of comments to explain why I think Invincible is really good, that I can explain without referring to spoilers. And so that's going to be a bit more of an in-depth review. I also know I could spend most of the talking time doing that, and I don't want to... I've been doing this a lot. Like the whole talking in front of the camera, I do it a lot. And so I don't want to... I want to hear some of your thoughts.
Yeah.
So you guys go, and then I'll keep rambling.
I thought Invincible was a really good thing. I'm trying not to spoil it. No, shut. I'm trying not to spoil it. The main character, whose name I won't spoil, was he was excellent.
You can tell from the name.
Oh, Mark was great, and he's a good hero.
This is why Oz is the leading character person in low effort reviews. Well, this exact reason. Sorry if I've done character good, show good. Is there anything more substantive you can share? Why?
No, that's all I can say.
All right, Nathan. What did you say?
I like the character's growth over the season and how he learns how to use his powers.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, there's good power creep in this.
Yeah.
Like, he struggles legitimately to begin with. Can't even land properly with flying. I loved that. Like, how many other superhero shows do people get powers and suddenly can fly? I'm looking at you, Captain Marvel, Mary Sue, where they just get powers and then they can use them. No, and like Iron Man, at least he had like a scene where he struggled a bit and like he was wobbling and stuff. And Iron Man learns how to fly really quickly and very competently, very quickly, granted. But even then, like, at least he falls through his roof and crashes, destroys one of his cars. And like, you know, the first thing where like 10% power, and he like shoots himself into the wall. I loved that in Iron Man 1. So, yeah, obviously there are some movies that do at least power creep is there. But in other superhero things, they just know it because it's there. But this one has great power creep. Like, he really struggles to learn, like, for a whole episode almost. Like,
I feel like for the season though as well, he struggles a lot.
Oh, he gets the hang of it pretty, like...
Flying, yeah.
Yeah.
But like learning how to use his power and his strength and stuff, I feel like most of the time he's just... Yeah, like the fights are really fights. It's not him just flicking the bad guys away.
Here's an interesting thing, and this is another point of reference as to why I think it makes it so good. I cannot really think of any other superhero property where the hero loses as much as Mark does in Invincible. Like, when I say lose, like, get the legitimate stuffing kicked out of him. And, like, on death's door. And it's funny, because some other reviewers have already been pointing out that the term Invincible seems to more refer to his invincible will. And you can't break him, you know. And he goes through so much stuff. He has levels of invulnerability, but when there are so many other superpowered beings in this universe that can kick the royal crap out of him, and it happens. And I can't think of any other superhero show that has that, where the hero gets beaten up as much as Mark does. He also wins in case, of course, but...
Well, Jesse from Breaking Bad got his ass kicked so many times, but it wasn't as graphic. Oh, superhero?
Superhero.
Yeah, no, that's it.
I do like how they had the family dynamic a bit more. I felt in the...
That the mother wasn't just a tag-along throwaway thing. Like, there's significance with what the mum is going through. And, oh, man. Like, there's a line in the graphic novel that I'm so glad that they followed through in the adaptation. And I'm so glad if they didn't keep that, but it was there, it was great, it had as much weight as the last one, and you almost feel it more in this adaptation because you learn more about the mother before this significant line is dropped, and it reveals, it's a reveal of how one character thinks about the mother, and because you learn more about the mother and she's more significant, I think that had more weight in the adaptation as a result than when it's dropped in the graphic novel.
You can see the writers have read the material and they know the big picture, and so they've placed things in certain bits that would either, like you said before, improve pacing, have more depth, where I feel like the graphic novel, when it was written, it was kind of just done issue by issue a bit more.
But this is not to take anything away from the writer and creator of the graphic novel, because it's phenomenal. It's really, really good. But it is interesting to see how when we have more time to develop our understanding of certain characters, that when big reveals happen, that they hit with more weight and significance because we are more familiar with them. And that's a legitimate writing technique. So, very well done. So some of my broader thoughts on Invincible. I have some subjective likes that might not impact other people and enjoy those elements as much as me. One of the things that I love is the traditional superhero, I'm going to say themology, because the themes of what a superhero is. Self-sacrifice for the greater good because you have power, you're helping them, all those things, right? But I also love the iconic imagery that a superhero, in my opinion, like a good proper superhero, should be that beacon of hope. And in that sense, it should be an aspirational figure. This is why I think superheroes should look gorgeous, both the men and the women. Give the men the muscles, give the women the sexiness. I reckon these are aspirational figures that should reflect it in their appearance and also their costumes. And so I love classic superhero costumes. I think I need to do a whole video on capes to share my... I've done my video on like why... on a functional level, why I think skin-tight superhero suits actually make sense. It's on Shadowversity. But also the bold colours, okay, the distinct designs, and the symbol identifying who the superhero is. I love it. And for that reason, I actually like the aesthetic look of DC superheroes more than the Marvel superheroes, but the Marvel superheroes are better written. In general analysis, there are some absolutely phenomenal single-contained stories in DC. And so things outside the DC universe, look, and Invincible is obviously one of them, is one of the best examples that captures the true themes of what like the idyllic themes that I love about superheroes, yet it's so much more realistic and gritty, because they actually, this explores, and this is the same thing as The Boys. The Boys explores what would actually happen if someone with superhuman strength punched a regular person. Yes, their head would explode. So Boys did that. Invincible does it as well, but Boys is it's a cynical deconstruction where this maintains the aspirational kind of ideology that undermines the superhero genre, in my opinion. And Invincible captures that and then wraps it in this new, very gritty, dynamic thing. And then it plays with tropes in sometimes goes through and does tropes in the same way, like the aspirational superhero things, and then flips other tropes on its head. And it has characters that are based off of iconic ones from, DC. So you have Superman type characters, you got a Batman type character, and more is going to happen with the Batman knockoff, because he actually becomes this interesting character. And so I loved all that. I loved the play on the tropes. I loved where they remain true to them and then flip it on their heads. The story is really great, and I really enjoyed the characters and the payoffs and so I give it very big thumbs up. In terms of our final rating, I would give it a 9 out of 10. It could have almost been a 10 out of 10, but there are issues, and Amber is my biggest issue with it. As well as some other things that didn't land, but overall, there are some episodes that felt a bit more filler than other things, but it's always odd at trying to rate a whole series when there are so many outstanding elements in other episodes where you want to give those episodes credit, and even the lower episodes you're a bit reluctant to let them drag it down. Anyway, I'm feeling a 9 out of 10. What do you guys think?
I'll give it 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10?
Yeah, I was going to give it an 8 as well.
Pretty good. I mean, 8 is generous still.
Yeah, I think it's a really good show, and if you love superheroes and definitely more mature topics, it's definitely a show.
What about animation? Before we get to spoilers, there's some other things we can discuss. What are your thoughts on the animation?
They used 3D a lot, which
I think it
annoyed
is.
me.
You can see their budget was a little strict in animation, but I kind of think it gives it more character.
It's almost, that's similar to my feelings on it. I don't think it's the best animation. I get kind of, I've heard some people say the animation is phenomenal. It depends on your point of reference,
The fight scenes are phenomenal.
Well, see, this is the thing. The fight scenes are great. Really, really good. But if you were to compare this to, say, Disney feature film animation, it's not even close, right? Or something Studio Ghibli. But if you were to compare it to, say, your Batman animated series, I would say it's better than Batman animated series. It utilizes 3D better. It's smoother and more consistent in terms of proportion and stuff. In the Batman animated ones, the proportions get janky at times, and the facial expression is very simplistic. So, in regards to just the standard kind of superhero cartoon level animation, yeah, it's fairly outstanding. But that's if you were to narrow your your analysis of it compared to really well animated stuff. Mm-hmm. It's actually low tier animation, but it's consistent with what it's trying to do. That it didn't pull me out. At no point did the animation throw me out of the show. And in fact, it was perfect. It was more than well done enough that it sucked me in, especially in the fight scenes. So it seems like in the more important parts, that's when they put more effort into it. Because there are other parts where, when he's sitting in his home just talking to his mum, the frame rate between the actual animation is a bit like to me, and I don't like that. That's low effort animation to me, and you see it heaps in anime. Anime has cut so many. Do you like the way they have literally a frozen face, and the only thing is moving is the mouth, so they only have to animate the mouth.
They did that with I noticed a few times in Invincible.
Yeah, they do. There's that in Invincible as well, where it's a bit low effort. I get it, and it's subtle enough that it didn't throw me out. And what saves it, the saving grace of the animation, is that when things really get serious, it's still simple in terms of the lines are basic and stuff, but it services what the needs are perfectly well for the level it's on. I would like to see the animation improve in season 2 myself. I would like to see more smooth animation, so it's not just like more frame rate essentially. So it's not like thing in everything. More expression in some of the faces. Expression is fine in the serious stuff, but it's in the normal everything else where they.
Voice acting? Did you?
Oh yeah, voice acting. Voice acting is top tier. I mean, J. Jonah Jameson. J.K. Simmons hits it out of the park, man. I loved him as Omni-Man. He was so yeah. I would give the voice acting 10 out of 10.
Steve Yeun does a good job as Invincible.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal as Invincible. I don't know all the names of but
Gillian Jacobs does Adam Eve.
Does she? Adam Eve was great. Cecil was brilliant. Mother was brilliant.
Oh, I don't know that. Those
I don't know who did anything about it. And that's where I think the budget went on this. They spent the budget on getting really good voice actors in the shows because the voice acting is, and that's something that, I mean, you don't always get you get anime dubs and stuff where and when I was into anime a lot, I was a bit of a weeb back in the day. You always recognize the same voice actors being I love that this and look, that's the nature of dubs, right? But this being obviously a Western production, they could go out of their way and just get top tier voice acting, the cast, actually set up a really great cast of voice actors. And it shows because some of the scenes are so emotional that the expression actually makes it more real than even the animation. The expression that are able to be conveyed. It's great. Love it. So, I think that's our general discussion. And now look, this is not these type of reviews especially, they're fun, casual discussions where it's not an essay where we break down everything. Okay, if you want those, check out Morlar. His top tier in terms of objective review. This is not to be an objective review because, like Invincible, I haven't sat down to try and break down every scene in every episode. Because usually when you do that, you actually find a lot more flaws in them. And those flaws shouldn't be ignored because even if you don't notice them, it does have an overall effect on the quality of something, even if you're just watching it casually. Because there are other things I've watched recently which, again, even without doing a really detailed breakdown, and I wouldn't be able to tell you where all the flaws are, I can tell you that it's a pretty garbage show overall. Like Jupiter's Legacy? Is it Legacy? I keep saying Rising. Anyway, I'll do a review on it. I don't know. These guys haven't watched it. Maybe it'll just be me. It was Netflix's attempt to do a realistic superhero thing.
Yeah, but Netflix's attempt at everything sucks. They should attempt to do some good
so much Netflix makes is garbage. They only have a few good things. Outlaw King is good. What else is good?
That's literally it. That's the only good thing.
Did you like Stranger Things?
Yeah, I watched the first season. It was watchable. So, as I was saying, if I was to do like an objective review, some of my thoughts might change. I might be able to find more errors in and stuff like that. But from a casual viewing, I bloody loved it. And I think I'll always love it, even if I am able to find more objective flaws in it. But at the moment, not too many comes to mind, but there are a couple which we will talk about in the spoiler discussion, which we're moving on to now. So if you don't want any spoilers, goes with our full recommendation. You can leave now. And now we're getting into spoilers. Does everyone want to start with anything?
Yo. That train scene was messed up.
Oh man,
I forgot about it until you mentioned it to me again, and I was like, oh yeah, no, you're right. That wasn't really.
You were saying there was another scene that hit you more heavier.
Yeah.
When he crushes the dude's head.
With the lion.
I knew that was coming, right? Because I just want to share my thoughts. I remember my thoughts when I was watching the scene. So this is a spoiler. Last episode or second last episode, one of those two. I think it's the last one. Mark tries to save the pilot of a plane that Omni-Man has. The plane was attacking Omni-Man. Omni-Man gets rid of the plane. Pilot ejects. He can't pull the thing, and Mark really struggles to save his life, and he takes it down. And as I was watching that, I was thinking in my head, and so these are impressions, and I'm now translating my impressions into voiced words, which is going to be longer. The impression hit me much quicker in my head than how I'm explaining it. And it was like, oh man, it would be such a hard-hitting thing if Omni-Man just comes down and kills this guy anyway. Like, even before it happened, I was like, good writing. This would happen if there's good writing in this show. And so when Omni-Man lands behind the guy I just saved, I'm like, yeah. And so Omni-Man just reached out his hand on the back of the guy's head and just splats the head. And the reason why that is a good scene, and it's not because it's fun, because it has such a prominent impact on the main character and what he struggled to save this guy's life. Like, went out of his way to really struggle at. Then Omni-Man just comes in and is like, and that has a greater impact on Mark than if Omni-Man smacked him in the face. Just killing this guy in front of him, showing how weakless and helpless this guy is, how powerful he is, and is also showing how helpless Mark is. Like, you try and do all this, I can... Yeah. And so... The show has balls, and it's willing to do stuff like that, which obviously has a very powerful character impact. And you know Mark, he cares about people, and so when you see that, you feel the death of this guy, not because you necessarily know him, but you feel it because you know how much it would affect the main character, which you know so well. And this is bloody good writing. Anyway, what's the other scene that you're saying that hit you hard?
When he goes to the mob boss, and then all those villains show up, and then all the heroes come. And
okay, yeah.
And then...
So there's a lot of violent scenes, that's when Invincible gets the crap kicked out of him, and you also see Monster Girl nearly die in it.
Yeah, that, and I think one part that got me was you could see, Mark looks up, and his dad's floating for a second, and then goes away. So, here's interesting. This is actually one example where I feel the place of that event worked better in the graphic novel than in this. In the graphic novel, that event, that fight with a gang leader brings in these other super-powered villain things as mercenaries to fight for him. The position where it happened in the graphic novel was after Mark gets the absolute royal crap kicked out of him by his dad. And so Mark then recovers, and the power creep in the graphic novel seems to be every time he takes a walloping beating, like a massive walloping, you always feel like you get a sense that he's a bit stronger when he heals. That it toughens him up, and he can take more of a walloping before it is defeated next time.
It's like an immune system.
Yeah, it feels like you actually get a sense that his invincibility is always getting increased every time he is broken.
Like steel.
And then reheals. Like steel, right? And so you're actually, at the point in the graphic novel, and I remember this, you're actually feeling Mark is actually really tough. Is like, all right, he wasn't as tough as his dad, but is basically stronger than every other person on the planet. And the government is relying on him to do the stuff that Omni-Man used to do. And so you're getting the sense that Mark is really tough, really tough. And then we come to that scene where he goes up against, is it Battle Cat? Like, it's like War Cat or something? Is it Battle Cat? Because Battle Cat's from He-Man. I forget the actual name of the cat.
I don't know what. It was just
but
a big cat.
he comes across this big cat with a mace, and you're thinking Invincible is so tough, and the cat kicks the crap out of him, almost kills him, and he does it so easily. He's like, this planet sucks. There's no good warriors here at all. And it was such a good place in the graphic novel because it pulls me up. I was like, oh man, what a great way to show that there are power levels in this world that still are insanely beyond mark and is not even there yet. And it helps put things in place that had a really big impact because you were thinking it was so tough in the graphic novel, then you get just destroyed. And so that had a better place in the graphic novel than how they brought it forward in the adaptation. So I'll point that out. But it's a good scene though. It's a great scene. And it does show, like, it's of course good. It serves to show that Mark is still not totally invincible, but the position and the impact of using that scene later on in the graphic novel work better. Alright, so we should just talk about the chain scene. So, not much causes me to lose my cool when I'm watching a show. And that scene did it. Like, you know, where you have the reactions. Like, if someone was with you, like legitimately was like, oh, I was like, oh, you kidding? I was watching with Oz, he could tell. I was like, holy crap! Because that was next level. Like,
yeah, you see, I know where all the budget for animation went with all the side cuts that they took. It literally went into animating all the intestines and hearts and brains.
Like they did not. It wasn't just like red splodges. It was like pieces of.
So I have some more complicated views on violence in media. Okay, I don't like glorified violence. I think you can go too far.
That was glorified violence.
This is the thing. This is what I credit Invincible. It was not glorified. It was so next level violent. I'm not sure I've ever watched an animation as violent. And I mean, I friggin' watched Ninja Scroll. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It's very adult animation on. But Ninja Scroll is a very violent and mature old school anime film. And it has, a guy ripping off someone's arms and drinking blood. And it's all just very, over the top for the sake of being over the top. Which gives me a negative feeling that, like, this was over the top for a number of reasons that worked to the show's credit. One, it was to show the impact of what real superpowers would be like in the real world, and they were being realistic. They like for instance, this is a good contrast with the Ninja Scroll run one, right? Where he rips off the guys and he starts drinking a stream of blood in his mouth. It's like, and it's like, the arm wouldn't have that much blood in the first place. I mean, and so they were just doing it for the gore, shock appeal and stuff. Where this, if you wanted to show what superpowers would be actually like a building falling on people and things like that, and actually show it, this is what it would look like. They're not pulling any punches. They're not softening the blow. They're just actually legitimately showing this is someone with superpowers just grabbing someone's head and squeezing.
Yeah, I bet you wish you could, Shad, but you can't. I have too much gel in my hair.
So, one, realism. And I think realistic violence has a place in media, especially in war films, like Saving Private Ryan. I think that's actually really important to show how horrifying, reality can be sometimes.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge, man, I love Hacksaw Ridge. To show war is terrible. And it's not glorifying to say war is great. It's like, no, war actually really sucks. Look,
actually, Shad, I think war's pretty cool.
Just war. If you're fighting a bad enemy, it's like...
Oh, yeah. Well, to be fair, any war that Australia is involved in is just for our side.
Where's the double-edged axe of vengeance?
Yeah, where's the...
No, it is. Name one conflict we've been involved
I thought you were going to talk about Crusades. Anyway, moving on.
I could if you'd like.
What are your thoughts on Amber?
I'm not done with the violence.
Oh, sorry.
It's more about...
You said any...
No, more about the violence, okay?
Alright, keep going.
So, realism. The other side is to show the impact it has on Mark. And this is really important. So, because then it has a greater impact on the audience as well. Mark tries to save people, and then Omni-Man just kills them, right? And you're seeing what Mark is seeing, and it's horrifying. and then you also get some of the sense of what the character, you're invested in the character, and it causes a legitimate emotional reaction in yourself to animated violence. This is the crazy thing. This is the thing that I think Invincible gets like mad props for beyond anything else. Its violence, which is animated, was more realistic and as hard-hitting than live action violence I've seen in many other, films that are supposed to be photorealistic. Like it was crazy. And this is cartoon animated stuff. And it has so much of a impact because it's so realistic, and it gave poor Sir Ben PTSD. Now, I felt really bad about that. I thought I was going to get one of those fun reaction videos of you and Ben just going, oh! And instead, Ben's almost
shaking.
No, he got 1,000-yard stare and everything, man. He was...
Oh, it was not good. I was like, this is a bad idea. It felt so bad.
But again, like Ben said, it wasn't so much the graphical violence, but it was the struggle of the characters, which you can feel as a viewer watching it.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It was not necessarily because I was thinking it's animated, right? But Ben was able to explain it. Like the animation, it necessarily wasn't it. It was how the characters reacted to it and how everyone else is responding to it and how it's depicted in such a mature and honest way, and that made it so much more impactful and realistic to the point where. He and we wouldn't ever force him to either. He's like, when he's in a better headspace, he reckons he'll give it a go. But no, it was too much. Because when Oz and I finished the last episode, we were like, Ben, don't watch it. If you think the first episode was bad, the last episode takes it to not even 11, like 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last episode's pretty bad. I mean, it's a good episode, but like...
So the trains, we'll come to the train scene now because, again, I don't think it was gratuitous for the sake of being gratuitous. Think about how the scene is constructed. You've seen it, you'll know what we're talking about. We'll try and explain it if you just want to hear spoilers anyway you haven't seen it, right? Mark is trying to save people's lives, and Omni-Man is trying to kill, Omni-Man's intention in this scene is to convince Mark that human life is worthless because it's so weak. Him and Mark will live for thousands of years, and so to Omni-Man, it doesn't matter if a human dies now or in 50 years. It's such a short space of time, it's equivalent. And so he does not feel a thing in killing human lives. To them, it's ants. It's like literally just squishing, well, not literally, but it literally feels the same to him as a human would squishing ants. Which is again, that is such a more interesting and realistic kind of perspective of a villain of, if you take a villain that's got no regard for human life, that is justified narratively and explained so much more logically than I like killing for the sake of killing. So Omni-Man is already a more realistic and rounded character in terms of motivations because you understand how little he regards human life. So he is trying to convince Mark of this. And the best way to do it is to show how weak and fragile they are. So he just is killing people left, right, and center. And then he wants Mark to realize that he is so much greater than these pathetic humans. That he is so tough. And so it comes to a point where Omni-Man wants to really show Mark the vast difference between his strength and how weak humans are. And he does that by literally grabbing Mark's face. Mark is not strong enough to resist, holding Mark in front of a train while a train just goes barreling into him and using Mark, his face, as a weapon to just kill a vast number of people. His face and Mark is literally seeing people getting squished. Through, it's not even, it's literally through multiple people. And he's just screaming in horror, which of course you would be, because holy crap! And, oh my goodness! I was literally like, what?
Yeah, sorry, I was having a PTSD moment myself.
I think we all pictured it in our minds and we're just like, it was...
But you can see the impact it's having on Mark because of the narrative undertones this isn't Omni-Man just trying to be mean to kill people for the sake of being mean. He's literally trying to convince Mark of something by doing. It's actually serving a very strong narrative purpose, and to Omni-Man, it is evidence to his side of the argument. You're so strong, they're so weak. Let me show you how far that is. And it's just like, my gosh.
I think that scene for me, can go to the boys for a sec. In the boys, there's a scene where like it's just a room full of people, and randomly their heads start exploding, and like that was the scene where I'm like, you know what, I don't need to watch this show anymore. And luckily they put this scene at the very end of the series, and so now I have no choice but to watch the entire thing.
But there's more purpose to the Invincible scene, and more reason. Think about the purpose of the head exploding scene, right? You could actually achieve the exact same level, and I feel have almost the same level of impact on the audience by referencing, like having the shadow of people's heads explode and other things like that. And so I think gore can have a greater impact on people when it's shown visually, but then there comes to a point where it's just gore for the sake of gore, and like once or twice you can do it, but again and again and again, just for shock. To me, that's...
Well, they've been doing that for the past 10 years in TV. They did it in Game of Thrones.
I know, Game of Thrones goes too far as well. I think the head popping was like...
The entire Saw franchise.
That put me off Game of Thrones. I watched the fight scene because people recommended, hey, it's a great fight scene. It's like, yeah, and then it ended with that. I was like, I don't want to bloody watch Game of Thrones. I mean, and that's just so interesting because that level of violence legitimately put me off Game of Thrones, where this level of violence in Invincible makes me want to watch more, and I'm more hooked and invested because they're using it with such narrative utility to give impact to the audience, to convey things to the characters. It's just freaking amazing! I mean, my goodness!
Yeah. Sorry, I still just can't stop thinking about the chunks of human going everywhere in the train.
And that's why it caused me to get out of my seat, like going, holy crap, because I was watching something that was so much beyond just basic violence for the sake of violence. I was feeling what Mark was feeling. I understood exactly that this is perfectly something Omni-Man would do. He would totally do it to try and convey his argument and stuff. So good. So that's what I want to share about the violence. And again, I'm still blown away by it. But there's a couple other things that we wanted to mention, talk about. Oz, you had something?
Yeah. You see, the violence was bad. Well, it was good, but it was horrific. The worst part for me was the family drama, and you'll know if you come from a broken home too, is that... That's a joke.
It's already too close to home.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's like really intense, man. Like the way that Dad is, when he's like beating the crap out of Mark, is like, what? The stuff that he says.
And about the line about his mum, about like where she's more like a pet.
And the reactions and what's the mother's name again? See, not even we know.
Mum? Like, I think it was mum.
The mum's, like, her character is just tragic.
Oh. It is actually, doesn't it? It's heartbreaking.
It hurts. It literally hurts to look at, you know? Yeah. So, that was worse than the violence for
Were
me.
you texting when we're freaking filming?
I was Googling Invincible mum name.
Show us right now.
Okay.
But show us.
No,
Show us right now. Oh!
That's a bit mature for you, isn't it, Nathan?
What? Oh, come on, Shaq.
I'm saying he was looking at porn. No, he wasn't. He wasn't. Nathan would never do that.
Debbie Grayson.
Yeah, she was a really Debbie Downer, that whole series.
Well, she's going through hell, man.
I know.
Yeah, it's understandable, but she was a realistic character, and she had, her spunky side where she's like, in my a-hole son and stuff, and all that. Like, there was a good relationship there.
That wasn't very nice to say to him.
You say it to me all the time.
I never call you an a-hole.
I call him that sometimes, Grant. In jest, in friendly jest. Yeah, the family drama was done very realistic, to the point where...
It hurts.
It's a bit too real. All right, so thing up next, Amber. The Amber problem. Like, it's one of those...
The Amber problem.
The Amber
problem. We need one final solution to the Amber problem.
You have to go there.
Yes.
Give him the axe. Where's the axe?
Give me the axe. Literally go and get it. Thank you, Nathan.
We're going to give Oz the axe so he can put it down.
Final solution to the Amber problem. First, Sprekins.
No! What?
Sprekins.
Put it down! Put it down! Okay, so Amber is a problem for me, and the reason being is that it is revealed she knew who Mark was before he told her, specifically the episode at the university where he has to race off, disappear to save lives, and in that episode she first, that episode is structured to try and play off that she simply doesn't understand and she thinks Mark was a coward that ran off and abandoned her when everyone's being attacked. And so, okay, you can try and understand that that was justified. I still don't like how... I don't like Amber already. She's already too controlling, you have to treat me perfectly and I'll treat you however the hell I damn well see fit. And that's not a fair, equal relationship. That is someone trying to wear their pants and get a simp and treating him like dirt. And that makes me not dislike her, but this part raises it to another level because it's revealed then that when she is so ticked off with Mark, she knew that he was invincible the whole bloody time and treats him like a total female dog. Like, that made her to me, I won't even say, but that made to me, a total freaking bitch. Like,
I don't consider the B word to be a swear word.
I've said it once on real life media, and even in the last few years. That's a word I generally avoid because it has a bit. To me, it has a bit of kick to it. But anyway, I have said it, but only in the most extreme circumstances in defending Christmas, and that's when it's called for. I'm not defending anything of virtue here. I'm just calling out a dog of a character is a dog of a character.
I don't think the B word is a swear word, but I still wouldn't call Amber a B. I would go to the letter after B and explain her as
Oh my
god. She is that as well. She's a total dog. Like, and then she has the bloody audacity to still be angry with Mark like he's doing something wrong. You selfish. What he said.
Can I follow on with what you said? Okay. Yeah. So no. Okay.
Careful.
Like the thing that really annoyed me about this part really killed it for the show for me. Like this is why it got an 8 from me instead.
Yeah.
Is when she's like, no, I'm only angry because you lied to me. And then every other character who he talks about it with is like, yeah, dude, you shouldn't have lied to her. Literally every single
even
other
Adam
character.
Eve goes as far to say
Eve,
that.
His gay friend. All of them.
And it wasn't Adam Eve the one telling him you have to be really careful revealing a secret identity because once you cross that bridge you can't cross it again? And then she lectures him for...
He literally, she says, and so does the gay friend, you're such an asshole for lying to her, Mark.
Yeah, so that bloody... To me, not so much to ruin the show, but...
And that's just the SJW stuff just creeping in. It is, man.
To some extent, there are some parts where it feels like it's making fun of it. Like, it seems like all the bad characters are the ones trying to push certain agendas. And so I'm not sure if it's like this meta commentary by the creators that following certain ideologies make you a jerk person, but it seems like that.
No, there's some...
No, there's the supervillain who was spouting...
Yeah, but that was a joke.
Yeah, I know, that's the point.
It was really funny.
As a joke, it's not taken seriously. But, like, look at the... Oh, man, I can't even say on here. I can't say... even if I was holding this, I wouldn't be able to say it because I'd get cancelled instantly. Not because it's anything bad, but because it reflects their politics and something I can't go into.
Yeah,
something you were talking about the other day. You remember you said...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, okay, notes on politics, just, we're getting... is I actually wouldn't mind if left-wing politics being overtly promoted in a show, if they balance it with the equal level of promoting, if you're going to do it, your audience invariably is going to come from both ends of the political spectrum. So if you don't want to like disenfranchise, disillusion half of your audience, you balance it out. That's what I did in my book, okay? Now, granted, my book obviously is more condemning of communism and things like that because...
But it's also condemning of rape.
It is as well, that as well.
Because
but
both things take away the consent of the person.
When the people who are supporting certain ideologies in my book and they set forth their arguments, I actually present their arguments as well as I understand them and as well as I've usually heard people defend it, to not represent it in a, unfair way. And that's just, if you want to be a good writer. And so, when you actually got stuff like that, there wasn't so much of it in Invincible to ruin the show for me, but it clearly would, like, if there was any type of political messaging that did appear, it was always on a left-wing slant, which is annoying. It's common, but it wasn't enough to ruin the show. Now, look, I'm a conservative, so of course that annoys me. It shouldn't shock anyone, but I feel if you can put that in, but if you don't want to annoy half your audience, well, balance it out a bit, man. Have two characters, one socialist, one capitalist, and have them actually have a fair argument in the show that doesn't straw man one side.
No, you see, Shad, that would be the middle ground. We don't live in those times. We live in hell.
Well, luckily, they didn't politicize it like very much. Like they ended up doing in The Boys season 2, because my goodness, right? Yes, The Boys season 2 goes down a friggin' hole with how political it gets. And I don't want that in my shows.
I can tell you some quotes from that.
And look, I'm not saying shows can't be political, but if you're wanting to attract a wider audience as possible, you need to do it with a bit more subtlety and balance than what we got that was in season 2 of The Boys. But luckily in Invincible, to me, it wasn't that bad. But and my annoyance with Amber isn't at all with the fact that she was presented as an SJW. She even says that she wants to study a social justice course in university. So this is me trying to accuse them of, she says, no, they legitimately say in the show, Amber is a social justice warrior.
She says there's a great social justice course here, and she also says she's into fourth wave feminism.
Which, that doesn't even exist yet. So
no, it does now. It does now.
It is fourth wave here.
Yeah, it's...
So this is the thing. I could still love her character. It doesn't matter, okay, if she was actually a decent, good character. And, they try to make Amber good because she does actually volunteer in, homeless shelters to give people food and everything. But she is such a dog in so many other things. And she is such a controlling, do what I say, treating Mark like dirt through most of the series. I just hate her for that. Not because she could have been, a full-on whatever with someone who believes other political things that I disagree with generally. I can still like him as a character if they're well written, if they're engaging, and if they're a decent person. But Amber is just a cow. An absolute cow. I hated her.
I kind of agree with Omni-Man's plan. I mean, why not?
No, he only said that because we're putting it away now. Putting it away.
Nathan, grab me the axe.
All right. Did you have anything else to share?
No. Okay, the one thing I would say about Amber, I liked her more in the show than the graphic novel because
yeah, all right, let's get into this.
I feel like I had more involvement in the show.
She was in the graphic novel. Amber was very much just the girlfriend,
and that was it.
That was it. It was girlfriend, but I kind of we did get to there. I'm not sure if they can't explore this anymore. In the graphic novel, it's really funny because Amber just trying to figure out why Mark isn't there all the time. He's always going off. And she ended up thinking that he's a drug dealer. And I kind of found that funny. It showed a different perspective, a view from the outside to explain why Mark isn't there. That is non-existent in the adaptation because Amber, she's just smart. She figures it out. She's just so smart and perfect and clever. And you got to treat me right because I'm a strong, independent...
Amber Sue.
Amber Sue. That they couldn't make her, because the original Amber was a bit airheaded, a bit ditzy, She liked Mark because he was good looking. And,
yep, that was it.
But teenagers, of course, So, they gave her more character. I'm willing to concede that, but I think it was bad character.
Yeah, I don't like the way that she treated Mark at all. I think that was really dumb. And
Well, look, I'm not sure what you can do. Like, the new Amber is clearly getting a stronger reaction out of me than the last one, and I have much stronger feelings about the new Amber than the last one. And so some people might say that's a win. Like, any character that causes you to have a stronger reaction, like, I don't think good, because it legitimately made me dislike the show. I could have given it a 10 out of 10 if not for that Amber crap. Because my counter argument to you is the additional character they gave her more opinions, more personality in that sense, but because it overall made a more dislikable character and a contradictory one, it was definitely not an improvement over the original. A more plain, even objectified character, girlfriend for the sake of being a girlfriend, someone attracted to that the main character literally sees as an item to be desired and achieved, right, is actually more functional for this type of story and worked better in the graphic novel than the change.
And she was a character that was annoying. Just annoying.
yeah, I did not like her on-screen presence. But
you did like her politics, though.
No,
Sorry, you're the Twitter user, man. I assume.
I'm on Twitter.
You don't use it actively.
I'm ashamed to say.
He's on Twitter a
I
lot.
just like and retweet. Okay, I don't post much.
Yeah. You're not responsible for the genocide.
So anyway, Nathan is very wrong. That's what we're trying to say. Look, I don't know. Look, you are a reasonable person. Has my counter argument changed your view?
I agree with your points on why you don't like her, but I still... I don't know, I kind of agree that because it's getting more reaction out of you, she's a more... She, like, I don't know, reading the comic, I was just like, why is she here?
Well, no, there's not much there, but she serves a simple purpose, a simplified purpose,
okay.
which is an object to be desired in which Mark's superhero things is getting in the way. And that creates a simple but effective conflict of being a superhero creates a sacrificial aspect to his life where he is sacrificing the thing he desires, what he needs to do to achieve the thing he desires, because he's being more noble and choosing to be helping people in response. So you do not need much there for that character to be... This is my theory on Mary Jane. Okay, the original. I'll call it the Mary Jane theory. Okay, Mary Jane originally not much there, and she didn't need to be. And the complaints that she was just an object to be desired, it should not be considered a criticism, because when you have a piece of media, you only have so much screen time, which is so much time you can devote to the plot, especially if you're limited to a show or a movie's time frame. And so if people are saying there should be half the time spent developing this side character when the purpose of the show is to be a fun action superhero flick, you're undermining most of the time that you should have devoted onto what mattered out of the show, which was to give the audience what they want, which is Spider-Man kicking butt. And so we want 90% of Spider-Man kicking butt. But okay, let's try and get a conflict of him needing to sacrifice to kick butt. He's saving people's lives. Okay, he has this girl he likes, but being a superhero undermines that. And you don't need much then for that desirable thing to achieve a purpose apart from being hot. All you need. Hot girl.
Shad, I'm kind of falling into Nathan's realm of thinking. I want to know what the, personality, the character who got his head crushed? I want to know what that guy was like.
Everything about him?
Everything. What was his politics?
Now,
what was his tax policy?
It's actually a good point of contrast.
Not every character needs to be...
Exactly! Not every character... And I'm not saying you couldn't enrich a story by giving character more depth. I think if you can, sure. But if that is at the sacrifice of the time you can spend on what the audience really wants, the fighting, kick-butt, awesome action stuff, you're creating something different. Instead of creating an action, adventure, you're going to create a love story drama. Now, Spider-Man really does go into the love story drama thing, and they do develop Mary Jane's character to the character's credit. But what I'm saying, criticizing a show, like for instance the original Invincible, for the lack of depth in Amber, when that's not really the primary, story, is not understanding what the story is trying to achieve, in my opinion. Okay? And sometimes it's perfectly fine to have a character act as an object of desire because that's all you need them for. Just as the same my theory with monsters. You don't need monsters or villains. Like, monsters are a shorthand to create thing that hero needs to stop without needing to go through the depth and backstory to justify their evilness as you would with a human villain. Because if it's just a mustache-twirling villain, sometimes it's unsatisfying. But a monster is a monster. Problem solved. Likes to eat babies. Let's stop it. You know. Anyway, like. Those are my feelings, and I think Amber served the role that she was meant to do in the graphic novel, and we didn't need anything more. Because she's we know she's a bloody placeholder before he gets to Adam Eve.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
yeah.
Wait, he dates Adam Eve?
Yes!
Thanks for the spoiler, dude.
Oh, what?
There was
Are
tension.
you telling me you couldn't see that coming?
I could see it coming, but I didn't know when.
Well, it's going to happen sometime. I didn't say
Eventually.
when. Eventually. It's not a spoiler.
What if I told you the date you would die? Okay, that's a bit far.
I didn't say the date. If you tell me, Shad, you're going to die, well, I kind of know that. It's fairly obvious. I wouldn't be phased. This is the same as saying he's going to date Amber. It's as obvious as you're going to die.
You keep spoiling it. Your death date's going to be a whole lot sooner than that.
So, yeah, Amber is a placeholder, and her purpose is literally to just leave the series and never be thought of again.
But she
so
doesn't.
why waste bloody time developing all the backstory of her character when, again, just a placeholder to get to Adam Eve? It's not needed, it wasn't needed in the graphic novel, and they tried to do it in this, and they stuffed it up. Look, they could have perhaps increased the interest if they did Amber right. I'm not saying... Never
just made
putting
her an
depth
interesting
into
character.
a character is a bad thing. If you can do it right, you can make it better. If you have more time to do it, and they did have more time in the series, it's not necessarily needed.
No, she sucked.
Yeah, Amber did suck. She sucked more now than the plainer version of her in the graphic novel.
Yeah, you're wrong, Nathan. No, it's fine to have your opinion, man.
It's fine to be wrong.
We won't cancel you. We won't cancel you. We're not the other side.
But that's the thing, at the end of the season, it feels like all the three of the friends are going to be going on to other seasons now as his, like,
Yeah, oh
his
man.
support.
Like, just get rid of her. Because they, like, it so annoyed me when they kiss and make up. And again, it made Mark a weaker character to be so simping after Amber. Like, Amber treated him like dirt and he comes crawling back, please forgive me. Mark did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with Amber at all. He's saving lives as a flippin' superhero. And if she is so selfish and dim-witted not to realise that, that wasn't me. Look, that wasn't me saying hit Amber. No. That was brush her off. This is a brush. This is a broom. And then brush her away. Brushing her away. Brush her off.
Shadow gets too based for his own good.
We know what happened if Mark slapped her.
Oh, man.
Which I wouldn't mind. I hate Amber. Alright! We covered a lot of the main points. And look, Invincible is such a complex and impressive show that I think we could just keep talking about it forever. But we can't talk... Well,
you
maybe
could
not.
talk about
I
it
could
forever.
talk about it. But I think we covered a lot of the prominent parts that stood out to us. What we liked, what we disliked. And that was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys joining us. And we'd like to do some more of this. Casual round table discussions.
Round table.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Should we all say goodbye?
Yeah, if you want to
Oh.
say goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Farewell.